I'm called Lucky Muhumuza, a student of Victoria University, pursuing a Masters of Science in Information Technology. And this is a research proposal that is submitted in partial fulfillment of that requirement. The topic is the effect of digital literacy training on the adoption of the URA electronic tax. And this is a study of selected small business owners in Kampala Metropolitan in Uganda. The supervisor of this proposal is Dr. David Kakeeto. The background and the problem are historically, the Uganda Revenue Authority introduced the electronic tax filing in 2009 as part of the modernization process, and since then the digital taxation services have grown, and that is as by Ochelai et al. 2022. And globally, we know that the e-tax filing has become mandatory, especially in developed economies like the US, the UK, and Australia, supported by continued investment in technology and taxpayer education, as per the World Bank 2023 report. And in Africa, in countries like Kenya and Uganda and South Africa, the implementation of these systems, such as the iTax and the electronic billing machines, it has also been noted, though we have seen that adoption of these systems has been continuously uneven. In Uganda, despite the growing tax base of taxpayer register and all that, we note that many business owners, especially at the smaller scale, still struggle with inconsistent, late, and inaccurate filing, and that is as of Opiso et al. 2023 talks about that. And the ideal situation is that every small business owner should be able to register and file returns and pay taxes easily as well as on time using the digital platform that's provided by URA. However, most owners lack the digital competence and confidence to navigate the online tax processes independently. That is as by Nundu and Matamande 2023. And this study identifies the critical gap that is actually practical in nature, noting that while the electronic tax system exists, there's no clear evidence that has been produced on how the digital literacy training affects adoption among small business owners in Kampala Metropolitan. And if this gap remains unaddressed, the consequences include filing errors, missed deadlines, reliance on intermediaries, fines, and loss of government revenue in a whole range of circles. The purpose and objective and the scope of this study, importantly, the purpose is to examine the effect of digital literacy training on the adoption of URA electronic tax system among small business owners in Kampala Metropolitan Uganda. And they have 4 key specific objectives. Okay, objective 1 is to assess the current level of digital literacy amongst the small business owners in Metropolitan Kampala. 2 is to examine the effect of digital literacy training on the adoption of the URA e-tax system. Then to identify the challenges that affect the adoption of the system, and to examine the relationships between attitudes towards taxation, trust amongst government, trust in government, and the adoption of the electronic tax system. The scope of this study in terms of content is limited to digital literacy training as the independent variable, and the e-tax adoption as the dependent variable, including indicators such as online registration, filing frequency, timeliness, and accuracy. Geographically, the study will be carried out in the Kampala metropolitan area, which includes divisions like the Central, Kawempe, Makindye, Nakawa, and Rubaga. These areas are highly concentrated with businesses and businessmen most on a larger scale as compared to the whole country. The time scope covers the period between April 2026 to June 2027, when we intend to get this study conducted. This study is significant and is valuable to several stakeholders as follows. The Uganda Revenue Authority, the findings of this study will reveal how digital literacy training can enhance e-tax adoption among small businesses, helping the authority to design a better taxpayer education programs, reduce filing errors, and also improve the timely compliance. To policymakers, the study will produce evidence on the critical link between digital skills development and tax administration. And to small business owners, this research will address the day-to-day tax compliance challenges. that may include, amongst others, improved digital literacy to enable them become more comfortable with the e-tax system and less reliant on intermediaries and less anxious about making mistakes. The academic and future researchers shall also benefit from this study in form of contribution towards knowledge, especially on digital governance, technology adoption, and tax compliance in Uganda. And the results can inform further researchers on administration, business information systems, and e-government, as according to Mukisa 2025. Authors that pin this study include David 1989, who developed the technology acceptance model in brackets term, which states that the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use of primary determinants of technology adoption. And this theory explains why small business owners will embrace the URA tax system only when they find it useful or easy to operate. And that's according to Venkatesh and the TAL 2020 16. Bandura 1998 and 201, who proposed the social cognitive theory, emphasizing that self-efficacy and confidence gained through observation and training directly influence behavior. This theory supports the idea of digital literacy training, building on the confidence needed to use the e-tax platform. Asamoah et al. 2023 demonstrated that digital literacy is fundamental for e-tax adoption among small businesses in Africa. And without such literacy, even well-designed systems may fail to achieve their sustained use, especially in government. Mwasa and Philly 2025, who identified the barriers of e-tax adoption in Zambia, indicating that lack of digital skills, limited internet access, and insufficient confidence among small and medium and medium taxpayers. Nundu and Matamande 2023, who found out that computer literacy levels significantly influence tax adoption amongst SMEs in Harare, Zimbabwe. The research employs a mixed method design, combining quantitative and cross-sectional surveys with qualitative insights, as by Creswell 2021. The design is appropriate because it allows the researcher to collect data from selected small business owners at a single point in time, and efficiently establishing associations between digital literacy training and e-tax adoption without requiring long-term follow-up. That is according to Austin and Elu 2023. The study population consists of small business owners in Metropolitan Kampala, who include the retail shops, wholesale businesses, market stalls, restaurants, hair salons, hardware stores, and more transport-related micro-enterprises. The study also points to the URA authority officials and leaders of business associations around Kampala. According to the URA taxpayer register of 2026, the population of actual taxpayers is about 4.064 million Ugandan shillings. Now, the sample size was determined using the Yamanese formula with a 5% margin of error and 95% confidence level. The minimum sample size is 400 respondents. However, to account for the non-response, the researcher took it upon himself to target 590 quantitative respondents in addition to 10 key informant interviews, and this will be for URA officials and business association leaders in the Metropolitan Kampala. So they making it up to a total of about 600 participants that shall directly participate in this research. The study uses a combination of purposive sampling and simple random sampling. Under purposive sampling, this is going to be employed to identify small business owners who actively operate within Kampala and register taxpayers or those who plan to register, either way to have the other control margin, as well as to select the URA officials and business leaders, association leaders who have relevant experience with the electronic tax system. And this technique is very important because it ensures that the researcher targets information-rich individuals. From the identified group, A simple random sampling is going to be deployed, select 590 quantitative respondents, giving every qualified small business owner an equal opportunity of being chosen, thereby minimizing sections and bias, enhancing representativeness of our data that is going to be corrected. The data correction, the researcher is going to deploy two main instruments. One shall be a structured questionnaire based on the study objectives and variables, including digital literacy training, e-tax adoption, attitudes towards taxation, and trust in government, which is very, very important. And this is going to be administered to 590 small business owners. We shall also have an interview guide with open-ended questions that shall be used to correct qualitative data from key informants, enabling us, probing and clarifying on responses. All data will be primarily gathered from field respondents. Data analysis techniques that shall be deployed. One, in terms of quantitative data analysis, we are going to use the statistical package for social sciences, which is SPSS, and the descriptive statistics, including frequencies, percentages, mean, standard deviations. We'll summarize the demographic characteristics of our respondents, and in general pattern the responses regarding digital literacy levels, training experiences, and adoption behaviors. We shall find a measurable mechanism of getting this into our hands. The inferential statistics will be employed also. Using the Pearson's correlation analysis, we shall test the relationships between digital literacy training, attitudes towards taxation, and trust in government. Trust in government and adoption to the URA e-tax system. We shall also use the regression analysis to establish the influence or the effect size of digital literacy on adoption, while controlling for other variables. It's important to ensure that our tools and techniques are reliable, and in this, the questionnaire will deploy a pilot-tested small group, will be deployed in a pilot-tested small group of respondents with characteristics similar to the main study participants, according to Cronbach's alpha. This will be used as the coefficient of analysis in establishing the validity of our tools. The qualitative data from interviews will be analyzed systematically, identifying recurring themes, challenges, training needs, and trust, amongst others. The data collection procedure will follow a structured sequence as follows. The researcher will obtain an introductory letter from Victoria University and seek permission from the relevant local authorities in Kampala Metropolitan, including URA, business association leadership, and others. After permission will be granted, the researcher will identify the selected respondents and clearly explain the purpose of the study. After that, the structured questionnaires will be administered to the target groups, that's the 590 small business owners, as well as the other 10 key informant participants. And finally, all the field questionnaires and interview records will be corrected and stored safely to ensure data integrity. This study is going to it has key ethical considerations, which include participation, which is entirely voluntary. No respondent will be compelled to take part, and each respondent will be informed of their right to withdraw at any point in the interview. Informed consent will be obtained in writing, and also confidentiality will be maintained by not recording the names or any personal information of our respondents. Data will be handled with care to prevent unauthorized access, thereby protecting respondents and keeping the credibility of the research process. In summary, this study addresses a critical problem. Although the Uganda Revenue Authority electronic tax system is available, many small business owners in Kampala Metropolitan cannot use it effectively due to low digital literacy. And this according to Opiso, et al. And Mwasa and Philly 2025. The researcher proposes that digital literacy training is a key explanatory variable that can significantly improve adoption, measured by registration, frequency of use, timeliness, accuracy, and satisfaction. The study is guided by a technology acceptance model of Davis 1989, and the social cognitive theory of Bandura 1986. And it tests two key hypotheses. The first one is the digital literacy has a significant positive effect on e-tax adoption. And the second one is that the attitude towards taxation and trust in government significantly relate to the e-tax adoption. Methodologically, the study will collect primary data from 600 participants. That will be 590 quantitative surveys and 10 qualitative interviews. The expected contributions are practical recommendations to URA to design targeted taxpayer education, policy inputs for digital inclusion, and revenue mobilization. And also to the academic dimension, the study will contribute to knowledge, especially on e-government adoption in Uganda. Upon completion, the researcher will produce evidence that can help bridge the gap between system availability, usage, sustained use, ultimately benefiting small business owners. Also, the URA authority shall benefit, and Uganda as a whole shall benefit from the completion of this study. Thank you so much.